In Indonesia, there is a village where animals do not just go missing, they get dragged down into the ground. It began slowly. Farm animals near Membak started disappearing during the night. There was no noise, no fight, just empty spaces where the animals used to be. At the beginning, it seemed like nothing more than bad luck, but slowly a clear pattern showed up under the earth. When people from the village walked into the forest to look for answers, they found something unsettling. Many deep holes were spread out across the land. These were not natural gaps in the soil, they were living burrows, dug-out hiding spots made by a hunter that had recently settled in the area. And the problem was not staying put, it was not staying deep in the forest, it kept getting nearer to where people lived. Inside these underground burrows live Komodo dragons, the biggest lizards on the planet. They used these tunnels as a base to move around and hunt. As they took over more ground, the missing livestock turned into something much scarier. Actual face-to-face meetings with people. Sometimes right inside villages and even in homes. And no one is allowed to stop them, because the law protects these animals. But that is not true everywhere in Indonesia. On a different island, something completely different is happening underground. There is a hidden tunnel system that Komodo dragons simply cannot get into. In the forests of Java, these tunnels are already taken, not by huge reptiles, but by porcupines. And here, everything works differently. Porcupines do not back down or give up their territory. Their bodies are covered with long, stiff, sharp quills, which turn every tunnel they live in into a danger zone for anyone who tries to enter. When they feel threatened, they do not run away. Instead, they turn around and become a wall of spikes, which makes even big predators back off right away. After a while, most hunters just stop trying to get near them. Komodo dragons hunt in a very different way. They depend on surprise attacks and biting at close range, which is exactly the kind of closeness that puts them in serious danger around a porcupine's defenses. So you end up with two very different predators, using two completely different systems, sharing one underground world that they cannot actually share. That brings up a question that is hard to ignore. If porcupines are already living in the area and naturally push predators away, why not bring them closer to the places where Komodo dragons are causing trouble? Boats already travel between these islands. The distance is not far. Moving porcupines from one place to another is technically doable, but in real life, it is not that easy. As Komodo dragons keep spreading into new areas, they are running into people more and more often, and that is starting to feel normal to them. That kind of familiarity is risky. When a predator keeps meeting humans without anything bad happening to it, it slowly stops being careful. In several villages, people have already noticed this change. The dragons no longer stay away from houses the way they used to. Instead, they are coming closer, and quietly, the chances of a dangerous meeting keep going up. Reports about these encounters have been climbing steadily, not because the animals have become more violent, but because the world around them is shifting. When it gets harder for these predators to find their normal food, they change how they act in order to survive. Komodo dragons mainly hunt deer, but when deer are hard to find, the dragons do not just sit and wait, they adjust. They go after goats, chickens and farm animals near villages, basically anything that is easier to catch. This is not something they prefer to do, it is something they need to do to stay alive. From the dragon's point of view, saving energy is important. An easy meal that takes little effort is more appealing than a hard, risky hunt. Without meaning to, human villages turn into dependable food sources. It is not that the animals are hunting people on purpose, it is that opportunities pile up in those areas. And slowly, something quiet but serious starts happening. The village itself begins to work like an open buffet for the dragons. Once that habit forms, it becomes almost impossible to undo. If people would leave dangerous places like this in most parts of the world, why don't the people here just move away? In most locations, that is exactly what would happen. But here, they cannot. The danger does not push people to leave. Instead, it forces them to stay. People are connected to this land through their culture, their income, and their everyday lives. Moving away would mean losing their earnings, their stability, and their sense of home. Komodo National Park has become a huge tourist attraction since it opened in 1980. Back in 1982, fewer than 1,000 people visited each year. By 2023, that number had jumped to over 300,000 visitors. Local people earn their living from all of this tourism. So really, where would they even go? Entire local economies now rely completely on this. Since the fear never really goes away and leaving is not truly an option, people are stuck simply reacting to whatever happens in the moment. The situation cannot be fully managed or controlled. All anyone can really do is respond as things unfold. In the end, luck plays a huge role, whether someone happens to be in a safe place at a safe time or not. People try to scare Komodo dragons away using stones or sticks, pushing them back toward the wild. Based on surveys, roughly 10% of residents have even taken the extreme step of grabbing a dragon by its tail to chase it off. But most of the time, no one does anything at all. The animals simply wander through the village while people watch from far away, waiting quietly for the moment to pass on its own. This constant unpredictability shapes everyday life there. There is no fixed rule for when danger might show up, and there is no promise of safety. And that is exactly where a strange idea comes into the picture. Given how unstable this situation is, the porcupine stands out as one of the strongest possible answers. It is seen as one of the animals in the wild that is simply not worth attacking. Its quills cause sudden pain and wounds that take a long time to heal, so most predators avoid taking that kind of risk in the first place. That is because, in nature, staying alive is not really about being the strongest. It is about avoiding injury. Evolution has shaped predators to stay away from targets that carry too much risk compared to the reward they offer. A porcupine matches that pattern almost perfectly. It can cause deep wounds, infections, and in some cases, even death. Even large, powerful predators often think twice before attacking one. But the real question is whether this defense would actually work against Komodo dragons. Komodo dragons attack mainly by biting, which means their nose and mouth are exposed right at the moment they strike, which happens to be exactly where a porcupine's defense works best. The quills can pierce soft skin, get stuck because of their barbed shape, and even break off inside the wound, which often leads to infection and deeper internal damage. Porcupines can also swing their tails to drive the quills in even further. Depending on how deep the quills go, the injury could even turn deadly. Once a quill is lodged inside, it can dig in deeper with every movement, sometimes reaching blood vessels or internal organs. There have even been recorded cases of predators dying from injuries like these. And even when the wound is not fatal, it can leave the animal badly weakened, and in the wild, that kind of weakness is rarely something an animal can recover from. That leads to one last idea. If porcupines already live nearby, why not use them as a kind of natural shield close to the villages? On paper, it sounds like a smart, simple plan. No disruption to the ecosystem, no need to bring in a new species. But when you look closer, it gets a lot more complicated. Part of the difficulty comes down to geography. Indonesia already has its own native porcupine species, including the Malayan porcupine on the mainland in Sumatra and the Sunda porcupine, which lives on islands closer to where the Komodo dragons are found. This means moving them would not technically mean introducing a foreign species into the environment. Even so, the results are far from guaranteed. Porcupines might survive just fine in a new area, but it is still unclear whether they would actually change how Komodo dragons behave on a larger scale. If porcupines were moved in and took over the burrows, blocking the dragons from using them, the dragons would not simply give up. They would go looking for other places to shelter, and in many cases, that could mean human settlements become their only remaining option, which could make the whole situation worse instead of better. History gives another reason to be cautious. In Pakistan, porcupines are already seen as a threat to agriculture because of the damage they cause to crops and orchards. So increasing their numbers somewhere else could simply shift the problem to a new form instead of actually solving it. That means the real challenge here is not just about controlling Komodo dragons. It is about balancing a whole system involving pressure, adaptation, and human survival all at once. There are already some practical steps that can help. Building secure enclosures for livestock, managing waste properly, and getting rid of anything that attracts predators into the villages are all useful measures. At the same time, protecting the natural deer population gives Komodo dragons enough food to eat out in the wild, which lowers their need to come near human homes and tackles the root of the problem directly. Cultural attitudes also play a big role in shaping the outcome here. In some communities, Komodo dragons are not just tolerated, they are seen as part of local identity, and some people even refer to them almost like family members. Around 83% of residents say they are willing to live alongside the risk rather than get rid of the animals. That makes any plan to eliminate the dragons completely unrealistic. Porcupines remain a genuinely interesting possibility, but they are not a complete solution on their own. They are just one part of a much bigger puzzle that involves ecology, survival, and constant adaptation. After looking at all of this, one thing becomes clear. There is no easy fix here, only trade-offs and consequences to weigh. And that leaves one final question hanging in the air. Can people ever truly find a safe balance with Komodo dragons without changing the entire ecosystem around them? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe.